telling her she's pushing herself a little too
How's
fast.
she doing?
I think actually she gets understandably tired as the day goes on, but otherwise, you
Last time I
know.
saw her, she looked good.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I mean, that's basically the way it is. But it's always like these things, you gotta watch to make sure people don't push them. Big surprise, right? Where you see it's a temple. It's a temple, exactly. All right, I'll be right back.
change slides. I thought it was a political thing, I was worried. Oh. So I told you the guy in the vigil, David was there, and Michael. They were both right to me.
excited to have you there.
Gives his mother, this morning was on, had a stroke. While I was out sitting on the porch, so I got to work the kitchen table. And I hear this bang.
Stuff, but I think he is. He's gonna like endeavor to be on. But if you can ever get on a date with him, like it's amazing. It's obviously unbiased. But I'm so glad they had such a nice time. You know,
You're in love.
well, that's very sweet. I mean, he'll be back at some point or another this summer for sure. So I'll make sure to say a quick hello. All right. Oh, no, there is some kind of issue. What?
No.
No. The short answer is no. Egg noodles, if they're kosher with Passover, egg noodles would work. And if you eat keto, you're Sephardic, or you're like me and a kid on that religion, you can eat rice noodles because there's rice. Which, by the way, it kind of is a cheat code and it kind of ruins the whole thing.
Kidney out?
Yeah. It's really
Yeah,
like,
but how do you do it otherwise? It's so hard.
it's very hard.
It's so hard the other way.
I also don't want you to have to move any more than you need to.
Yeah, that's what Delay said.
If I stand on the bottom.
Yeah, is that okay?
Pay $300.
I don't want to, more important than anything, I don't want to push that, you know, that's it.
I stuck my glasses on for my own seat.
Let me just check out.
Jackie, I like the candles if you start with it. Yes.
All right, just
No,
hold on.
just stand like this. I'll say the blessing.
You can just come up, look,
Come on.
anywhere you want to be. Jackie, you can just come up.
Come on.
How are you, Ron? Shabbat Shalom. How are you? I know. It's good to see you.
Nice to see you. Looking forward to tomorrow.
I'm excited to have you there.
So it's two more actually, because I didn't realize they weren't on the list. So that's,
There you go.
It's growing
There you
by the
go.
minute.
Growing crowd.
Good. All right, so there is technically festival evening service in here, which I don't think changes anything. It certainly shouldn't change
It's not
anything on
gonna
your
change
end.
anything. Well, it's also,
Right.
It's also
It's
not
it's
gonna have
it's,
to have
it's just the Amida that I think
just
is
be the Amida.
right. So
and it's not that different. It would just be all Levi.
yeah, that's pretty much it. 384. 384. All right. Whoop. Okay, guys. All right. It's great to see you guys. Okay. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
Chag Sameach to all. First and foremost, I hope everyone had a wonderful Seder experience, at least one, if not two. Maybe any highlights to share? Anybody have any particularly wonderful Seder moments they want to share? You had fun? Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. And Mimi, very nice. Lovely. All right. Yeah.
I don't know. That's what I asked.
It must have been very egocentric, I suppose. Yes. Oh, yeah. So just as a quick word, in case anybody's wondering, Our new oil lit candles, there's some issue that Josie was having, and rather than risk anything related to, things that are flammable, we decided, and for whatever reason, we could not find any of the other candlesticks to add our second set. And then I found in my office, my daughter Eva, apparently at Hebrew school, made a little candle holder thing there. So in a pinch, that has stood in, I think, for this Shabbat. So Eva's candle holder will carry us. But they should both light as normal. And if you need any help with the lighting piece of it.
Do you want me?
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll take care of that. So tonight is, as we said, both Shabbat and the end of our festival of Pesach. Here at the temple, we celebrate 7 days, so this is the end of it as well. So we're on page 384, almost exactly the same, but some slight variations in the service, which we'll tell you. And we're very grateful to Rona and to Susan, who will light our 2 sets of candles. Amen. Amen. Okay, well, thank you very much. And we're going to turn back to begin Kabbalat Shabbat to our normal page 130. And again, page 130 as we begin Kabbalat Shabbat together at the very top of the page.
Lechu neranin al Adonai nariya letzor ishenu. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina Adonai. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina Adonai. Naria litzor ishenu nekadma fanav betoda. Naria litzor ishenu bizmirot naria lo. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina Adonai. Lechu neranina, lechu neranina, lechu neranina Adonai.
We're now on page 131, the 96th Psalm.
Shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, shiru l'Adonai baruchu shemo, basru miyom leyom yeshuato, sapru vagoyim kevodo bechol ha'amim. Nifleotav, ki gadol Adonai, hulal meod, norahu, al kol Elohim, yain lai shiru l'Adonai, shir chadash, shiru l'Adonai, Kol haaretz.
We'll turn now to the bottom of page 132.
Or zaru ala tzadik, uleishrei lev simcha. Or zaru ala tzadik, uleishrei lev simcha. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, vehodu lezecher kodsho. Simchu tzadikim b'Adonai, vehodu lezecher kodsho.
We'll turn now to the top of page 134.
Zamru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor vekol zimra, b'chatzotzrot vekol shofar. Hariu lifnei hamelech Adonai, zamru l'Adonai bechinor, bechinor vekol zimra, בחצוצרות וקול שופר. הריעו לפני המלך אדוני, ירם הים ומלואו, תבל ויושביו, נהרות עמך וכף יחד, הרים ירננו, לפני אדוני קיווה, לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק, ועמים במישרים, ירם הים ומלואו, תבל ויושביו, נהרות עמך וכף יחד, הרים ירננו.
We're now on page 135, the last Hebrew paragraph, just in the middle of the page.
רוממו אדוני אלוהינו וישתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו וישתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו רוממו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו וישתחוו להר קודשו.
We'll turn now to the 29th Psalm, page 136.
מזמור לדוד, הבו לאדוני בנעילים, הבו לאדוני כבוד ועוז, הבו לאדוני כבוד שמו, השתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש, כל אדוני על המים, אל הכבוד הרים, אדוני על מים רבים, אדוני על מים רבים, כל אדוני בכוח, כל אדוני בהדר, כל אדוני שובר ארזים, וישבר אדוני את ארזי הלבנון, וירקידם כמו עגל לבנון וסיריון, כמו בן רמים, כמו בן רמים, כל אדוני חוצב להבות אש, כל אדוני יכיל מדבר, יכיל אדוני מדבר קדש, כל אדוני יחולל לילות, ויחשוף יערות, ובהיכלו כולו מרכבות, כולו מרכבות, כולו מרכבות. אדוני למה בו ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו ושלום.
We'll turn now to page 138, L'chadodi, beginning at the top of the page. A reminder, we'll do the first, second, fifth, and ninth paragraphs, and for the final paragraph, we'll rise and face the doors that we walked through just a few moments ago.
לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, בדיבור אחד השמיענו אל המיוחד אדוני אחד ושמו אחד לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי היא מקור הברכה מראש מקדם נסוכה סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה התעוררי התעוררי כי באורך קומי אורי 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 שיר דברי כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה בואי ושלום עטרת בעלה גם בשמחה ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה בואי חלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת נקבלה.
Please be seated. We're now on page 140.
Tzadikata marifrach kerez balvanon iske shetulim beveit Adonai bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun beseva deshenim verananim Lehagid ki ashar Adonai tzuri velo avlatabo.
Now rise for the Chatzi Kaddish, and we are now on page 392. This being a festival service and the Shabbat service, we're a little bit further back in the book. Again, page 392. We'll rise in body or spirit for the Chatzi Kaddish. Again, page 392. Yitkadal veyitkadash shemei Rabba Gama divrach cherutei v'yamlich malchutei B'chayechon uvyomechon U'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael Bagala Ubizman Kariv Veimeru Amen Yeshmei Rabba Mevarach Le'alam Li'almei Almaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitvar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh V'yitadar V'yitaleh V'yitalal Shemei Kudsha Brichu Leila Min Kol Berchata Veshirata Tushbechata V'nechemata Tamiran Be'alma V'imeru Amen. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Okay, please be seated. We'll turn now to page 397, and we'll read the second reading down from the top, one where it says seventh day of Pesach. And time reverses its course, today flowing back into yesterday. Like a river enclosed at its mouth, each of us has been a slave in Egypt, soaked straw and clay with sweat, and crossed the sea dry-footed. You too, stranger, this year in fear and shame, next year in virtue and justice.
Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzavaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu leolam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Shemo.
Ha'ma'ariv ha'ravi.
Amen. We turn now to page 399. We're at the very, very top of the page. We'll read together in English. Enlighten our eyes to the divine lessons of our tradition, attach our hearts to the imperatives of our faith, and let our minds be one to love and venerate all that is good, high, and holy.
Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu, uvahem nege yomam v'layla, ve'avatecha tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai,
Baruch Shemo.
ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Please join us on page 402.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha vechol nafshecha uvechol meodecha ve'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'yeshinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha v'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha uv'shartam leot ayadecha ve'ayu letotafot beinenecha וכתבתם המזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם
Adonai Elohechem Emet. Let's read together now on the bottom of page 405. Doubting is but the forefront of faith, a faith in the infinite growth of an unbounded creation. A doubting age is one of restlessness and discontent with what is current. A doubt is an idea that is still alive. To doubt that the past has uncovered all things is to express faith that many things are still to be uncovered. To doubt that we have grown to our full stature and knowledge is to express faith that we may develop into beings of such power and dignity that we cannot as yet imagine what shall be. We turn to Micha Mocha on page 406.
Micha mocha ba'elim Adonai Micha mocha nedar ba'kodesh Nora tehilot osef malchutecha ra'uvanecha bokei hayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam zeli zeli anu ve'ameru יפאר אדוני את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גאל ישראל.
Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Eternal God, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Hashkivenu is on the top of page 408.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomereinu lechaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomereinu lechaim. Ushmor tzeitenu uvoenu lechaim u'shalom me'ata ve'ad olam. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom v'hamidenu shomereinu lechaim. Baruch atah Adonai Haporei Sukkot Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim.
We'll turn now to Vishamru on the top of page 410.
Veshamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
And we add at the bottom of page 410, as its festival as well, Vayedaber Moshe et Moadei Adonai el Bnei Yisrael, and Moses declared the appointed festivals of Adonai to the people of Israel. I'll invite us now to rise in body or spirit as we begin the festival Amidah together on page 468. So we can rise again in body or in spirit. Just a reminder of a few things, as there are Shabbat and festivals. So you're going to first make the shift to Morid Hatal. We're now into the springtime, so we're praying for dew. This is actually, if I'm not mistaken, a Sephardi tradition that we've all absorbed. And then various places throughout the rest of the Amidah that are specific for Passover. You'll see them marked pretty well everywhere. But if not, do your best. That's all I can say. All right, we'll invite you all, please, to rise. We're, again, going to begin together, as we always do, on page 468. From that point on, we'll continue silently. Please go at your own pace. When you're finished at the end, you may be seated.
Adonai sefatai tiftachu fi ki tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Oseh shalom, shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen, amen. Oseh shalom, shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, ve'al kol Yisrael. Amen.
Turn now to page 371 as we offer our Misha Berach, our healing prayer for this evening. Tonight in our community, we're thinking of Gabriel Moreta, Ronnie Lidowitz, Madeline Egelfeld, Sue Wartor, Abigail Blum, Kate Sherwood, Bensi Tepper, Ame and Warren Cass, Rivka Bat Rachel, Lorraine Danis, David Dowling, Sibia Devora Bat Francis, Shelley Newmark, Diane Axelrod, Gabriella Spicer, David Kyle Klotman, Lorraine Davis, Kim Birnbaum, Deborah Block-Kroll, Sylvia Orn, Rachel Bat Ora, Peretz Ben Shlomo, Israel Ben Yitzchak, Jill Fagan, and Stan Posner. In addition to those names, if we have additional names to add in the room, we'll start on this side, and I'll just tell everybody the rules, and then we'll go to the back of the room, and then this side, and if you have names to share, just make sure we raise a hand so I don't miss anybody. All right, Steve.
Arlene Auerbach,
Indeed.
Eileen Rosen, Neil Rosen, and Elliot Rosen.
Joe Emanuel, Jackie Emanuel, Chris Hubbard, and Joanne and Carol.
Ryan Eisenberg.
Lays out, Andy Rosen, Solis.
Linda Shapiro.
Hachazan Benjamin Ze'ev Ben Rivka Chaya.
And we'll join together now in the middle of page 371 as we join student cantor Will, again, middle of page 371.
Mi sheberach avotenu mekor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We now add our prayer for Israel in time of war. Eloheinu v'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, our God and God of our ancestors, you know that the Jewish people are one nation with one heart, and now that heart is broken. O healer of broken hearts, binder of their wounds, be with our brothers and sisters who've been taken captive and with the families of the victims. Watch over the hostages, break their bonds, and bring them out from darkness to light. Proclaim release to the captives, liberation to the imprisoned, comfort the families, bring them under the shelter of your wings, bring complete healing of body and spirit to all of the wounded, bind up our wounds, and grant us healing. Tzur Yisrael v'goalo, rock and redeemer of the people Israel. Bless the state of Israel, the initial manifestation of our redemption. Shield it with your care, spread over it your shelter of peace. Guide its leaders and advisors with your light and your truth. Grace them with your good counsel. Strengthen the hands of those who defend us. Crown their efforts with victory. Bless the land with peace, its inhabitants with lasting joy. Shomer Yisrael, guardian of Israel. Strengthen and bless the defenders of Israel, who stand guard on the land and the air and on the sea. May we see the promise of the psalmist realized. You turned my mourning into dancing, my sackcloth into robes of joy. God protect, preserve, and restore peace and well-being to Israel, your people, and together we say,
Amen.
Amen. Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and Chag Sameach. Chag Sameach. So, I know it's a little late. All the Seders have already happened, but I want to take something that I taught at our communal Seder here and expound upon it a little bit. And it relates to the prophet Elijah. So, just quickly, for those of us, again, Seder knowledgeable, especially that it happened in the last 7 days, right? What is our main reason why we open the door for Elijah conceptually as part of the Seder, or at least as we assume? It's the main reason. It is cold outside. Sometimes, actually, it's the opposite problem. In my house, always too hot inside, open the door, it cools everybody off. It had a very nice appeal in that way. Okay, good answer, though, Richard, for sure. Okay, other reasons. What is Elijah to us at the end of the Seder? Jan? Okay, excellent. As Janet says, right, is traditionally understood to be the herald of the coming of the Mashiach, of the Messiah, and with the Mashiach, right, both how can I put this lightly, not so great times and then much better times that sort of follow, right? So it's a complicated figure, but our main association is that. So the first thing I want to share with you is again, a little bit of an expansion on what I taught on our Seder here the other night, mostly because I assume by that point most people have either forgotten or halfway out the door, and I thought it was interesting. But then I want to go a step further from that, okay? So the first is that Elijah, the character, is actually a fascinating character. And a lot of times for us as Jews, especially as modern Jews, we interact with these characters of the Tanakh from something of an abstraction, meaning that we tend to meet them in limited capacities. So more often than not, when we're talking about the prophets, when do the prophets normally appear in our usual behavior as Jews? Where do we learn about them, read about them, hear about them? I'll give you a hint. To my Saturday morning crew, right? To those that come on Saturday morning. All right, the Haftarah, the section of the prophets that goes along with the Torah reading. And we get little snippets of their lives, but rarely, if ever, are we expected to read the books in their entirety. Elijah is a similar challenge, except he's actually less in the Haftarot. There's only a couple places where they mention, and becomes really prominent in our minds in the Passover Haggadah. So our association with him, if he's the herald of the Mashiach, what kind of guy do we think Elijah is? What kind of person? Good guy. Good guy, right? At the very least, we would hope he's a good guy. If nothing else, we might expect he's an exceptional guy. Okay, turns out he's a more complicated guy than that. He actually was prone to, how shall I put this, fits of passion. Okay, he was something of a zealotous character. And there's a very famous moment in his life in which he has a prophet throwdown with the prophet representing the other deity of the time, Baal, who the Canaanites worship. And, as to show you that our tzuris is eternal, right? The main concern of that time of King Ahab and his queen Jezebel is that they're sort of turning over from following God and the covenant and the Israelites and going over to being more Canaanite, more Baal, basically intermarriage, right? Interfaith, all that stuff that we're still worried about, all that stuff was happening then, okay? And it's the same Mishigas then as it was now. But so Elijah gets really fed up, and there is basically this confrontation, and he orders 450 of the priests of Baal killed. And there is a sort of massacre of things. And he goes and he runs off to Har Chorev, which is the mountain that's associated with Mount Sinai, and thereupon meets God and laments to God that your own people have rejected you, right? That the people have spurned you, have gone over to the other side, as it were, and that it's sort of like Jonah is basically kind of throws his hands up and says enough. And it's at that point where God actually, it's not clear whether God kills Elijah, because that doesn't seem to be the case, but takes Elijah up to heaven immediately in, I forget, a pillar of fire or something to that effect, and appears there. And upon appearing in the heavenly abode, according to the Midrash, Elijah is instructed that basically from that point on, in perpetuity, Elijah is meant to be present every time that the Jewish people renew the covenant with God or demonstrate their covenantal relationship with God. Hence the reason that Elijah is associated with the bris, okay, right? One of the signs of covenantal relationship with God, and with the Passover Seder, which is when we as a community, as individuals, as families gather together, talk about the Exodus, celebrate our connection to God, and so on. Okay, so we have this sort of image to begin with that Elijah is a slightly more complicated character, but one of his main things is that he's there to witness exactly what he says that the Israelites stopped doing, that our ancestors stopped doing, and that they're concerned about that we stopped doing, which is losing our connection ultimately with God. So that was what I taught at the Seder, and then that got me thinking there's more to this, there's more to explore, and sure enough, I was correct. So I'll begin with a question. During the Passover Seder, how many cups of wine are involved?
4.
Yeah, boy, you guys fall for it right away. Okay, think about that for a second. Yes, 4 cups we drink plus. Excellent. Okay, so actually there's 5 cups that's going on, 4 of which we drink, 1 of which is left for Elijah. So what is this about? So here we're going to borrow from Rabbi Shimon Maslin. I believe he's passed away, so I will say Zichrono Livracha. He was the Rabbi Emeritus for many years at KI in Elkins Park outside of Philadelphia. And he wrote this to explain from a legal standpoint what's going on here and why Elijah is involved with it. So he says as follows: when the best explanation of why we welcome Elijah on Passover is his role as herald of the Messianic age, this is in fact not his primary function at the Seder, at least not when the tradition itself started. Back in the 2nd century, when the sages were establishing the rituals of the Seder, okay, remembering again the Seder is a rabbinic construct, it's not in the Torah, certainly it's not in the Torah in the way that we are familiar with it. So a disagreement arose as to whether there should be 4 or 5 cups of wine. Why? The custom of drinking multiple cups of wine derived from God's promise to the enslaved Israelites. 4 promises follow one another in rapid succession within Exodus chapter 6, verses 6 and 7. You don't have to open it, just trust me, it's there. But if you open it, it says 4 basic promises, right? I, being God, will free you, I will deliver you, I will redeem you, and I will take you to be my people. Okay, 4. However, after an intervening verse, a 5th promise appears. I will bring you into the land. In other words, right, to the land of Israel. So each cup of wine is a symbol of the joy we feel as beneficiaries of God's promises. But is the 5th promise connected to the prior 4, or is it a separate promise? On this, the rabbis, which is beautiful, could not agree. Okay, so the rabbis of the Talmud couldn't agree on this. Some said there should be 4 cups in honor of 4 promises only. Others said 5 cups for 5 promises. The Talmud then decides, and this is a little bit of a Talmudic side note, but studying Talmud requires understanding that the rabbis use certain phrases or ideas for rhetorical purposes. And it's very important to know that, because if you try to translate certain things literally, it will make no sense. But certain words and certain phrases will indicate something to the reader to understand. In this case, a very specific word, okay, which is teku, to indicate that the rabbis could not reach a decision on a matter under discussion. So this word will appear any time that the rabbis got to a point in which there simply could not be any agreement as to whether it was, in this case, 4 or 5. And so the decision in this case as to the number of cups was left to teku. But the Passover Haggadah prescribes 4 cups for us to drink, possibly as a parallel to the 4 questions and the 4 sons, right? It makes a certain kind of sense, keeping the 4 consistent. But just in case there really should be 5, the writers of the Haggadah called for an additional symbolic cup. And how did this symbolic cup come to be associated as the cup of Elijah? Okay, so to be very clear on this, just so we're following, the 5th cup piece has nothing to do with Elijah at the beginning. It was a disagreement between rabbis as to whether there should be 4 or 5. So now there is an attempt to try to find some way of dealing with this. And now we're going to bring Elijah in and associate him with this. Why? Okay, nobody's actually exactly certain of what this word teku means. Apparently in modern Hebrew, which I didn't know, it's used to indicate a tie in a soccer match. Okay, so it finds its way into the modern parlance. Okay, it may derive from a word meaning it will stand, as in other words, leave it alone. It's a question we can't answer, to just leave it alone. But there is another argument, a folk etymology, says Rabbi Maslin, which is that it's actually an acronym in Hebrew, which says Tishbi Yetaretz Kushiot V'Ba'ayot. Okay, the Tishbite, which is Elijah, Eliyahu HaTishbi, will come and answer all resolved questions. So what is he saying? According to this folk belief, the first thing that Elijah will do as the herald of the coming of the Mashiach, when he returns to the Jewish people to proclaim the advent of the Messianic age, what is the first act of Elijah? It's not to stop the wars, it's not to feed all the hungry, it's not to clothe the naked. Okay, the first thing that is going to happen is that Elijah is going to resolve all the questions of Jewish law that confounded the rabbis that could not come to resolution. Okay, so that alone I thought was just brilliant, like beyond brilliant. That the thing that we, the Jewish people, need the most at the time of the coming of the Mashiach is just to get us to stop arguing with each other about things that we disagree on. On every conceivable level, I could stop right there, and it's great. Okay, but a last thing, and this I want to give credit to where I learned it from, Rabbi Lisa Grushko, who is the senior rabbi of the congregation I forget the name of in Montreal. Amazing, amazing, amazing rabbi, Reform rabbi. She was at Rodef exactly, and then she went, I think in 2012, give or take around when I... Rhodes Scholar, brilliant person. Okay, so she pulled a Hasidic tale which adds another layer of this Elijah piece. So, and I promise this is the close, I'll bring it all together. So here's the Hasidic story. It says, there once a long time ago was a very pious and well-off Jew in a neighborhood, and he went to his rabbi and he says, for about 40 years I've opened the door for Elijah every Seder night, waiting for him to come, but he never does. Okay, why me? What is the reason? The rabbi then answers, in your neighborhood, I know that there is a family who does not have a lot of means, and that family has many children. So I would like to call on this person and propose to him that you and your family celebrate the next Passover in his house, and for this purpose, provide him and his whole family with everything necessary for the 8 days of Passover. So in other words, right, the rabbi makes a shidduch, makes a connection between, right, brings the man and his family who have means to the family that doesn't have means, right, brings with them all the means to make sure that that family is set not just for the Seder, but for all 8 days. Okay? So then on the Seder night, Elijah, says the rabbi, will certainly come. The man did as the rabbi told him, but after Pesach, he came to the rabbi and claimed that again, 41 years now, he had waited in vain to see Elijah. And the rabbi, in typical rabbi fashion, right, strokes the rabbi's beard, says, I know very well that you're not correct, that Elijah did in fact come to the Seder night to that house of your neighbor. But of course you couldn't see him. And then the rabbi pulled out a mirror and held it in front of the face of the man and said, look, this was Elijah's face that night. Okay? So if you didn't follow the story, because I didn't tell it well, right, what is he saying? Right? Who is Elijah in that story? He was, right? He was, and primarily he was because he fulfilled really what is the mitzvah of mitzvahs, the tzedakah of tzedakahs, the whole purpose of all things, which is, especially on Pesach, everyone should have a Seder to go to. Everyone should enjoy a wonderful meal. Everybody should be able to celebrate. Everybody should feel secure, not just for the Seder, but for the whole Ganza, for the whole festival, right? And that our tendency to sit on our hands and wait for Elijah to come and save us, right? That Elijah is going to be the sign that somehow or another everything is going to be okay. This Hasidic tale kind of turns it on its head, and it says, you can do that. You can pray Mina Shamayim that God's going to solve all our problems, right? That Elijah is going to magically come and everything's going to be all right. But if there's anything we learned about Elijah, actually his main role is to make sure we stop yelling at each other. But for us, right? For us, our main job is to embody what it is that Elijah represents to us, right? The coming of the Mashiach will only happen when we are deserving of it, says the tradition. When we've already built the world that is ready for a Mashiach. The Mashiach is not a solution to our problems. It is an indicator that we have conquered our problems and we have reached a better state of existence. And while I am ever the optimist, I think most of us can acknowledge that this particular Pesach of all Pesachs, we haven't gotten anywhere close to that. Okay, and we certainly haven't stopped arguing with each other. That much is an absolute. So that's not to make us despondent. It's not to make us depressed. It's the opposite of that. Right? It's to inspire us and to remind us, okay, first of all, that we still have the end of the festival, right? We still got a couple of days to really do our very best, so if you've been waiting to do some mitzvahs, now is a great time to do it, right? But the answer is not going to be in Elijah magically making everything right, okay? It's on us to do that, and I think we have a lot of work to do. That's very clear. So with that, I wish you all very much a Shabbat Shalom, a Chag Sameach, and I hope very much that one of these years, indeed, we will meet Elijah and all the good things that we are promised, including that fifth cup that we can all enjoy, will come to be. So again, Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach to everyone. Before we get to Aleinu, I'll invite us to rise and turn to page 570. As we always do when we reach Pesach, the first thing we do, of course, again, as Jews, is we start thinking about the next holiday. And so we count the Omer, we count 7 weeks of 7 days, connecting us from Pesach to Shavuot to the giving of the Torah. And we mark that occasion each Friday night when we are together. You can mark it at home, by the way, each day with a blessing and with an announcement of the day. So again, page 570, you can join me in the Hebrew blessing if you so choose. Hineni mukhan u'mezuman l'kayem mitzvat aseh shel sfirat ha'omer. I am ready to fulfill the mitzvah of counting the Omer. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfirat ha'omer. Hayom shisha yamim la'omer. Today marks 6 days of the Omer. We remain standing and we turn to page 586 at the bottom of the page, Aleinu l'shabech.
Aleinu l'shabech l'adon hakol. Lateit kidu al yotzer breshit. Shelo asanu kigoyei ha'aratzot. Velo samanu kimishpechot ha'adama. Shelo sam chelkeinu kahem. Vegor aleinu kechol hamonam. Vanachnu korim. ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר והי אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו echad.
Now I invite those in mourning and those observing yahrzeit to please remain standing. Everyone else may be seated at this time. We think first of those who've passed in our community in recent months. Heather Abrams, David Aminoff, Louise Crandall, Stephen Dickman, Judith Berry Emanuel, Harry Fadum, Michael Fagenbaum, Sharon Lee Goldblatt, Barbara Goldfarb, Harry Heller, David Carlin, Morris Kramer, Ann Lieber, Jeanette Myrowitz, Jeffrey Miller, Phyllis Cole Rowan, Gloria Ordover Sapiro, Ronald Seth Tempowski, Randy Wasserman, and Joel Wintner. We also marked the yahrzeits that occurred during the last week for Michael Banner, Joyce Barretts, Sandra Traeger, Stuart Danoff, Ralph Davis, Leroy Fadum, Rose Fadum, Nancy Fisher, Dora Gastworth, Jean Gottfried, Jason Gruen, Daphne Hafner, Annette Heller, Dr. Edwin Heller, Juliet Hinderstein, Marilyn Cohns, Sally Kraus, Connie Lamchick, Samuel Lehman, Sidney Maisel, Barbara Morris, Frida Rafe, Harry Ronick, Rose Rosenberg, Paulin Sachs, Carol Scheinman, Ruth Silberg, and Harry Weinstein. In addition to those names that I just shared, if anyone else is saying Kaddish this evening and like to share the names of your loved ones.
Richard Lattenstein, Walter Robinson.
Of course, we invite those watching at home to add the names of your loved ones as well. And we'll invite the mourners to join me on page 598. If it's your custom to rise alongside them, you may do so at this time. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Ve'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei. B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agala u'v'zman kari v'yimru. Amen. Yehei shemei rabbah mevarach la'alam u'li'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha b'richu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Zichronam livracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing. Please be seated. And again, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And a Chag Sameach, and a few important announcements, of course, to invite you for our Pesadika Oneg, which is just a way of saying, please do stay and enjoy the company, enjoy your time together. It will not be as lavish as our usual, and I ate all the leftover brisket from the Seder, so there's nothing left of any of it, unfortunately. But please do join us, and of course to join us for Shabbat and festival services tomorrow morning, beginning at 10 o'clock. Followed by our Kiddush and Torah study as well. Reminder that tomorrow's service includes the service of Yizkor, so if you are remembering a loved one, you can join us for that service as well, which tends to be towards the latter part of the service as part of the Torah service itself. Of course, most important of the weekend beyond the festival is our wonderful Will is here, and he's prepared a wonderful concert for us tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock. So we'll have a chance to end Pesach and hear Will's beautiful voice and the Shema and all the great things. So, Will, we thank you for working so hard to prepare
do
for
it.
it. And, we asked for registration, but, if you didn't register, just come anyway. We'd rather you be here than be worried that you didn't register. But if you can, please register. It helps us to know who's coming and be prepared and all those good things. And we'll have a little wine and cheese reception afterwards, and that will involve chametz. So if you've been waiting, right, that's a great way to end both Shabbat, the festival, and again, hear some beautiful music. Also, a reminder that next Friday night, April 25th, we'll be including as part of our service at the very, very beginning, before we begin Kabbalat Shabbat, a tekes, a service of remembrance connected to Yom HaShoah. So again, that'll be next Friday evening, just before we begin Shabbat services. Still normal, same time to start, but sticking with that challenge of Shabbat being a day in which we don't eulogize as a reason why Yom HaShoah never falls on Shabbat. And at the same time, knowing that our community is at its largest on Friday nights and wanting to make sure that we are able to, as much as we can, commemorate the importance of that day. So please let us know. And also, if you would like to, either if you had family that was taken in the Shoah, or if not, and you'd like to participate and light a memorial candle, please do let Shelley know this week, and we'll make sure to make that connection. Beyond that, I think that's everything. Our wonderful previous student cantor, Lauren, as I mentioned, is finally being ordained. She will be official cantor, Lauren, and is leaving for Los Angeles. And so her ordination will be the first weekend in May. May 4th. And so it will be live streamed, so we'll get you that information. If you'd like to live stream it, I'm sure
I'll get
she
you
would, we'll take care of us as usual in that way. So before we end our service with our festival kiddush and I assume matzah, I hope matzah.
We'll find out.
Yes, well, we've got a
find
closing
out.
song for this evening. Yeah.
We're going to close on page 634 with Ki Eshmera Shabbat. Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni. Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni. Oti ve'ol me'ad beino ve'ni. Oti ve'ol me'ad beino ve'ni. Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni. Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni.
We rise as we turn to page 386 for the festival Kiddush. Again, page 386. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'am v'romemanu mikol ha'ashon v'kiddeshanu b'mitzvotav v'atiten lanu Adonai Eloheinu b'ahava Shabbatot lemenucha u'moadim lesimcha chagim uzmanim lesason את יום השבת הזה ואת יום חג המצות הזה, זמן חירותנו מקרא קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי בנו בחרת ואותנו קידשת מכל העמים, בשבת מועדי קודשך, באהבה וברצון, בשמחה וששון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני, מקדש השבת וישראל והזמנים.
Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, motzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. This time it should be dry, so
Yeah.
that's good. Shabbat shalom, everybody. Chag sameach.
Good job.
Please come next door.
I've had
Oh, no.
worse this week.
Oh, God.